We are going to go ahead and start tearing into the front of 8-ball today. We're gonna get the front suspension apart, new ball joints, new coil springs, new spindles, and get the front of this thing lowered in preparation for our wheels. So let's get started. I know a lot of people like these truck rallies. I cannot wait to get rid of them. Ooh. What we got going on here is just a bunch of stock stuff. Looks like we've got factory ball joints on the upper are gonna be riveted in. If they were aftermarket, they'd have bolts on them. So looks like we've got original ball joints. I'm gonna assume the lower is original as well. It's like the previous owner had put a new brake hose on the front. Looks like new calipers and rotors, just because of how rusty they are. They come raw when you buy them new. I'm hoping we don't have to replace any tie rod stuff. A lot of this is gonna be going away here in the near future, so I don't really wanna spend a bunch of time and money messing with it at this point. We're also gonna have to take out these inner fenders. I found a really cool article. I can't remember where or what magazine did it. But they're putting earlier inner fenders in them, which gets rid of this slope and kicks that out farther. I think they might be a little higher too. They're like $50 some a piece from AMD, brand new. So I thought I'd give it a shot, just as a cheap alternative. Some of the aftermarket companies out there, got to drill a couple holes, but we'll get into that later. First things first, we're just gonna go ahead and start by getting this factory rotor off, get the bearings pulled, and then we'll pop the U-joints loose and get the spring out of there while we're at it. I'm gonna take my washer and my front bearing out, get it out of the way. Again, it's kind of got a mix of old and new grease in there. So it doesn't look like it got completely cleaned out, but that's okay. I think what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and get this wheel turned so I can easily access the upper and lower ball joint nuts. I also need to take that shock off so that I can drop the lower A-arm as far as possible to get that factory coil spring out. While we're over here, we're gonna go ahead and get the tie rod end cotter pin out too. I swear this might be the, well, I don't know, ball joints are gonna be pretty miserable. That one out, so we got one more in the bottom, which the bottom is really buried and caked in there, so it's gonna take a little digging to get that guy out. So we're gonna have 3 different nut sizes. This lower is gonna be 1 1/16. This upper is gonna be 7/8, and then this tie rod end is going to be 15/16. Now I don't want to take any of these all the way off, and I'll show you why in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and start breaking all these nuts loose. This lower one, same thing, we're going to loosen it up. So these ball joints you want to be careful with, because you've still got all your spring tension on the truck. This spring is trying to push this arm down right now. But these ball joints are tapered, and that tapered ball joint seats itself in the spindle because that is also tapered, and it's been in there for a very long time. They're not gonna pop out. But we are going to use that to our advantage here because this spring is still in here and is still trying to push down this lower A-arm. Means that we leave our nuts on, but there's a space in between the bottom of the nut and the top of the spindle on both. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna tap this spindle right where the ball joint is. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna vibrate, which will pop that, and the spring is gonna help us pop that out of place. Now the spring is pushing down, it's trying to go down, so now this nut is gonna be tight. So before we loosen any of that stuff up, we're gonna get this bottom one knocked out. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the wheel the other way, tap it on the other side, I'll have a little bit better angle, and we'll get that lower one popped as well. So now that I got both of my ball joints popped loose, I'm going to go ahead and take our jack, put it underneath the bottom of the A-arm, and we're gonna jack up on it to relieve pressure so we can get that spindle off. Now the jack is gonna hold the spring in place, the lower A-arm in place, and then we'll slowly let down the jack to get that coil spring out, but you do need to be careful because it is under quite a bit of tension. And go ahead and take the nuts off of my ball joints. Top nut. Again, there's no tension on these ball joints currently. Bottom nut. So we got that stock spindle out of the way. Honestly, this one's a little questionable. Doesn't seem to have any play in it, but it is quite loose. These should be kind of hard to move. This top one is at least stiff still. So we'll have to make a decision. These just sucked, especially the lower, to get the little press in here, get it pressed out. And again, we're not keeping this stuff, so if I was keeping it long term, I would definitely replace these. So we'll have to assess that in a second. We're gonna go ahead and lower this jack down because this is still under tension. Lower it down, eventually it's gonna stop itself. We'll have to kind of pry that out after we let this A-arm down as far as we can go. So you can see how if I had that shock still attached, it would be limiting the travel that this lower A-arm could go down so I can get this coil spring out of the way. Gonna take my pry bar. It's pretty loose at this point. Just pop it out of its place here. She's out. I'll put my nuts back on here. You know, I think I am gonna go ahead and replace these. My biggest thing with ball joints is when they spin, like rotate like that. When you go try to put this guy back on and that taper's not seated yet into your new spindle, that is gonna be it's gonna be really annoying. This is the worst one. I tell you, this upper one seems nice and tight. I may just leave that upper one in there. It doesn't rotate. It's got tension on it as I spin it around. So I'm gonna leave that one, replace the worst one, and we'll start putting this thing back together. That was a real struggle, not gonna lie. I'm used to having an air hammer. I don't know if that's why that was such a pain in the butt, but I ended up making the call to go ahead and replace the upper ball joint. I already have them. It's a good peace of mind. I was like, oh, it's only 4 rivets. That sucked. So hopefully the other side goes easier. Again, I don't have air or anything over here in the garage right now, so we're just using hand tools. But an air chisel really makes it easy after you get those heads ground off to get in between the arm and the ball joint and chisel that thing up and out. Hand chisel, not so great. We've got the upper ball joint out, lower ball joint out. I did cut off this bump stop. I highly recommend doing that. After you put a drop spring in here, it's way too close to hitting the bump stop. Between this bracket and a bump stop on top, you're basically on it all the time. So just take a cutoff wheel, cut it off, grind it nice and smooth. If I was putting an airbag in here, I would go ahead and drill out all these spot welds, get that piece all the way out of here, just so there's no way the bag could get rubbed. But in our scenario, I'm just gonna leave that plate on there, ground it down smooth. We're gonna go ahead and get the new upper and lower ball joints installed. Then I think we can go ahead and put the spring in, then the spindle in. I am gonna have to get different brake rotors. I already had a set of springs and spindles that I was just gonna use in there for the HD brakes, which are 1.25 inches thick. I didn't know what this had before it got here, so it is what it is. So this came with the regular duty brakes, which was just a 1-inch rotor. So when you're ordering spindles, you need to know, do you have a 1-inch thick rotor or 1.25 inch thick rotor? Turns out I had a 1-inch. I got the 1.25 inch spindles, not a big deal. I'm just gonna order up a set of new rotors. I wanna replace the bearings anyway. They don't look bad, but again, peace of mind. So you can get that stuff ordered up. But in the meantime, we can get the rest of this together and get the other side knocked out too. So let's do that. All right, we got this all cleaned up. I got my new ball joints in, top and bottom. So I am ready to go ahead and throw this coil spring in. So we are using this Maxtrac 3-inch drop spring with the Maxtrac 2.5 inch drop spindle. I have not used Maxtrac in the past, but I do hear good things about them from our supplier. And if everything goes well, I think we're gonna start offering these on our website for you guys, because we know you guys wanna buy everything at the same spot, and that makes complete sense. So we're just gonna jack the bottom A-arm up. We're gonna do the exact opposite of what we did to get it out of there. There is a pocket in the top that the coil spring locates in, so you just need to make sure that it gets into that pocket. On the lower A-arm where the coil stops, there's a pocket for that as well. So just make sure you get it in there where it needs to be. Jack that up, we'll throw the spindle on. Spindle. Those started. Some pressure on it. Now, if you can see my studs are sticking through, I can go ahead and get both of those on. Started. Well, I'm gonna get these nuts on the spindle, and then that'll be it. So we've got the second side, passenger side, all torn down. Everything is out, and we are ready to start putting some new parts in. I got our brand new Moog ball joints here. We're gonna get those pressed in first, then we'll get our coil spring in there, and then we'll put our spindle in last. But I went ahead and made the decision, we're gonna just order the correct spindles. It's gonna be cheaper, and we're not keeping these brakes, so I don't wanna buy brand new rotors and calipers and bearings, because we're not gonna be using those for very long. So new spindles are on the way. Hopefully we'll get those in the next couple of days, but we got plenty of work to do while we're waiting for those. We got a few things to take off of the inner fenders before we can pull them out from the bottom. We got this power steering reservoir here. We've got the factory jack, heater hoses, and then we gotta get this battery and the box and everything out. Then I think we can go ahead and come around here and zip all these bolts out, drop this out, and then we'll be able to test fit our round eye inner fenders. Curious to get them out of the box and put these side by side and see how much room we're actually gonna gain. Hopefully it's a lot. These are from AMD. These are 73 to 80 inner fenders. This is our original one, obviously. Just like a quick glance, this one looks to be several inches wider. So like these, I guess 81 to 87, it's got this sharp angle here that's flat. Well, the earlier ones don't have that, they're more rounded. This is the front where the course bore goes. I got to drill a couple holes in that flange to be the same bolt pattern. I think these that go around the wheel opening are the same. Then I think there's these two bigger ones on the back side. I think I've got to, on the new one, kind of oval that out a little bit, which it looks like, just looking at them, it looks like this big hole's gotta go down a little bit. Well, at first glance, I think this thing is actually gonna fit quite well. Just from a quick measurement outside the truck, these bolt holes, the bolt pattern, if you will, is the same. So I shouldn't have to mess with those. I gotta get it up a little bit farther here in the back. The front seems to be right where I need it to be. So I just gotta come up. I got these two big holes here. Like I said earlier, looks like I just gotta drop this big hole down, which isn't a huge deal because we've got these big fender washers on the factory hardware anyway. So I'm gonna work on getting this rear up a little bit more. It is a little tight, but it was a little tight getting it out anyway. So just trying to think if we have these powder coated nice, maybe kind of a pain in the butt not to scratch the crap out of them, but oh, hello. There's my problem. There we go. Oh, that's way better. So I'm gonna just put a bolt in because I can see that bolt, and then like I said, these tops look like they're gonna line up. Perfect. It fits awesome. I have to drill a couple holes up here, I know that already. I can see both bolt holes in these. So I am extremely hopeful that this is actually gonna work, which is super cool because these things are dirt cheap. Actually, you know what? I think I remember in the magazine article too, you had to kind of trim this radius a little bit back here to fit the inner structure. I said I was gonna go look at that article, I didn't. I'm just winging it. So, but man, it looks just great here. So not a big deal. Kind of angle it. I got my bolt hole here, which I don't want to mess with, so I'll come just a little bit below that. Make a nice little radius. Yeah, I think that'll work. I got it fit pretty good. Again, all these bolts fit up. So here is this extra little bracing. This hole lines up, this hole lines up. So this hole I need to oblong a little bit. This one I did ream out with a uni-bit. I don't know that I needed to, but it was a little bit bigger in this tub than it was on the bracket, so I just reamed it out anyway. So they're both the same size hole. This one does not line up at all. In the magazine article, it does. They just told you to ream it out a little bit. I'm thinking though, I'm gonna take this out and see, but I'm thinking I can just poke a new hole and move the clip, which is up high right now, move the clip down to this new hole. I think that's gonna work out just fine. In the front here, I was able to use this hole lined right up with the core support, but I've got two more. So I just came in to the engine bay here, found the top nuts here and just took a scribed them out. So when I drop this inner fender out, I'll be able to see right where they need to go, and I'll just poke my two new holes for the front. But all in all, it looks fantastic. I mean, for the price, I couldn't ask for anything better. It is very sharp though. I cut the shit out of myself. So put some gloves on. Looks like it's gonna work. I'm gonna pull this one out now, and I'm gonna get my drill, or my holes drilled out / reamed out. And then we should be able to put it back in there and test fit it for the last time, make sure everything looks good. And then once we get all of our new clips that I ordered, we'll be able to install this thing for the last time. All right. So I made some improvements this time. I already egged out, or not egged out, but just stepped up a lot of these holes just one drill bit size with the uni bit. I also trimmed that edge. So this one should go a little smoother. Still gonna have to mark out our front holes. Still gonna have to move this back hole, which I ended up doing on the other side. It's just down like 3/4 of an inch. So I just drilled a hole. We'll be able to get up back here and reach that. But either way, we put a hole back there. So let's get this bad girl in there. This side does have the steering box. So we'll see how that works out for us. Probably great, you know. Oh. Look at that. In. Oh, if I can find one hole. Oh, found one. Get the party started here. Another thing I learned from the other side was to start loosening all these bolts with a ratchet instead of impact so I don't break every single clip. So every bolt came out nicely on this side. Tell you what though, I am tired of working on the floor. I've been spoiled with a lift. And here I am on the ground 4 days. Not a huge fan of that. I need a awl to move this around a little bit. I'm liking it. Actually, that cinched it up pretty good. So I'm gonna go up top. Everything clears too. The steering box clears. The A-arm's clear. No, it's tight, but I mean, I can fit a finger in there. Clear the gear there, or the rag joint, sorry, rag joint. So I'm gonna mark these 2 holes yet. Again, I'm gonna have to move this because that bolt hole on the cab is up here, so I'll mark that out with a Sharpie. These 2 are a problem again, which the article says they are. They both need to be moved down on this side. Not a big deal. Let there be light. Okay, so I have this one, which lines up. Here's another nut that's welded to the core support, and then the 3rd nut that's welded to the core support. So I just need to take a scribe, stick it in there. That way I know where to drill the 2 holes in the inner fender. And that makes it super easy. Get my light out of here. Cheap lights off Amazon. Travis over at Simple C10 actually recommended getting these cheap photography lights. They so far have worked pretty good. At least I think so. I don't know. We'll know after this video gets edited, but these things are gonna go off to powder. And once we get them back, we'll put them on the truck. So it's been about a week for me getting back on the truck tonight. Got a bunch of parts that came in, you know, that we were missing spindles and some other stuff. So I got our new regular duty spindles, which are a little smaller, but we already have the brakes. We got those in. We got some polyurethane body mounts. I've got like a idler. I've got a pitman arm, inner and outer tie rods. These are the tie rod adjuster sleeves. And a couple of shocks that I'm gonna try out on the back of here. I couldn't find anything from Monroe, which is who we usually use for shocks. So I'm gonna try out these Maxtracs. We're using Maxtrac's springs and spindles on this truck, which I really like so far. And I think these are the ones we're gonna be listing on our website, just to make it easier for you guys. Also got some new seals for the inner bearings, some bearing grease, and I have been soaking these bearings. I think somebody replaced these bearings. I've just been soaking these in lacquer thinner. All the races look really good and clean. I think that when they did them, they just left some of the old bearing grease in there because it's kind of brown grease and green grease. So assemble all this stuff on the spindles, and then I'm gonna go put it on the truck all as one assembly, and then we'll be able to get the calipers on, and I'm hoping later tonight or tomorrow, which is Saturday, we'll be able to wrap up the lowering kit and get this thing back on the ground. So we got our grease gun here, our little bearing packer. Just gonna clip it on there, start squirting. She is out. I'm gonna try not to make a gigantic mess here. It's gonna also be kind of hard to show you, but I'll try my best to show you what you're looking for, at least when doing bearings. So you can see there's grease in the center, which came from us squirting it in there, and then it kind of goes up and around, and you can see how there's a steady line of grease between, I'm gonna call it like the outer case and then the inner case, and then there's rollers in between it. You wanna be able to see that nice even line of it coming out in between those two cases. So I would still put some on there. I'm gonna wait a second and kind of do all my bearings. That's the wrong side. Do all my bearings to this point, and then I'll go back. Get super messy. I find the older I get, the less I like to get dirty. Oh, of course, the gloves are up. Yeah, maybe I'm getting soft. Working in the office, answering the phones. My hands are soft. Okay, outer race. So I'm just gonna put that in as level as possible. Do both sides at once. Now, I'm sure there's a tool for this. I don't have one, nor have I ever. I've just got a piece of aluminum here, which is soft. It will damage before the metal. A lot of times I'll actually use a piece of wood that's flat. But I just want to get it started, and once it's started, I can work my way around. And then before I go get my spindles, I am going to, the seal is brand new, so it's dry. I don't ever want to put the seal on dry, so I'm just going to take some of that grease we shoved in there, rub it around on the rubber seal part. That way when it starts spinning, it's got some lubrication there. It's not going to rip from being dry. Yeah. So I'm just gonna take this, flip it over. Actually, first I'm gonna put some grease on these. This will be where your seal is riding on, so I want that to be greased as well. So take this, flip it over, just be careful because you don't want to screw up your seal. A little wiggle. Make sure it's seated. Give her a spin. That dude is on. So obviously, big taper, little taper, tie rod thing, arm towards the front. Actually, I think they're stamped. Probably cast L&R or driver passenger. I'm gonna make sure these are snugged up nice and tight. So this should be the final time, well, of this rendition. This is not gonna stay this way for very long, we've realized. Oh, and when you're doing this, these nuts are called castle nuts. And they're castle nuts because they're like blocks, like the top of a castle. Cotter pin's gotta run through that castle. So this side is ready to rip. So I gotta tighten our nut, but we can go ahead and do the other side now. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of set the preload here of my bearings. I like to first snug it down. Now I'm not really cranking on this thing. I wanna snug it down so that I know that those bearings are in the right spot. Then what I'll do is loosen it back up, nuts loose. Just spin it as I'm slowly tightening it. Once I feel it start to grab, then that's the end of it. Like there is probably a little too tight. It stopped. Just gonna loosen it up. Again, there's a cotter pin with a castle nut. So I need those two, the hole and the nut, to line up. It's okay for this nut to be what you think is kind of loose. Actually, being tighter is worse for it. And you can check this once the wheel is on and check it like this, and you can feel the movement in there. If it's a lot, you may want to tighten it up a little bit. And you may want to also check it after you've driven it for a while. But honestly, a little bit of play, like a little bit of play, is fine. The bearings are going to live a long time being just a skosh loose than them being tight together. They're not going to like being super tight together. So I'm going to take my dust cap here, and I like to fill my dust cap with grease. Again, just a little extra grease in there, never hurt anybody. It's just gonna go on the nut, although don't forget your cotter pin, which I almost just forgot. So I gotta go grab my cotter pin. I'm gonna go fill my other dust cap while I'm dirty, and I'll stick my cotter pin in there, put this grease cap on, and then this dude, the hub is done, then I'll get the calipers on, which is super simple and easy, so yeah. All right, so I've got the front end done minus the steering stuff, which we'll go over next. So I got my dust cap on, full of grease, my cotter pin in, got my calipers back on, the bolts in, brake pads. There's one thing that I wanted to point out to you guys is your brake line. So in a drop spindle, we're moving all this stuff up, in this case 2.5 inches. So moving all that stuff up, this brake line is going to get close to the top of this spindle where the upper ball joint is. So I have to massage this, and I've had to do that on every single set of drop spindles I've ever had. Is this will just run straight into the spindle, because normally a stock spindle would just go under the ball joint, but since we're moving all this stuff up, that thing's pointing right up. Don't be afraid to just take your pliers. This is pretty malleable steel. Don't go crazy on it because you'll kink it and crack it, but you can just massage this out of the way. Not a huge deal. Take your knuckle. Right now we don't have any steering hooked up, so it's easy. Take your knuckle, spin it back and forth. Make sure that that brake hose isn't gonna rub or bind on anything, because you're gonna have a real bad day if it does. But now that we have the front done, I think the last thing to do in this front suspension video is going to be the inner outer tie rods. So I've got the old tie rods here, driver side, passenger side, and I've also got my new Moog units here. Inners, outers, could be vice versa, I don't remember. One's longer, one's shorter, new adjuster. We're gonna be measuring the old ones center to center, and then setting the new setup up as close as we can get. This is kind of irrelevant because it's all gonna change to get aligned, since we are, well, we're 5.5 inches lower than stock. So this arm is not gonna work at its original spot. So We're gonna put this together, get it close, get it on the truck. I also have to do the pitman arm because that has a joint in it. So I picked up one of these cheap. This was like 20 bucks at O'Reilly's to pull that stock pitman arm. I've also got an idler. We are going to be running the steering setup for a while. Probably all of next year will be stock steering. So I wanted to go ahead, replace it all up there. I'm not gonna replace the steering box yet. We're good. All right, now that's off. Let's bring you in here real quick like. So now that we got this off here, I'm gonna clean up these splines with just a hand wire brush quick. There we go. Just gonna take my nut and my lock washer. Put that the same way though, this way. I'm just gonna use that. To press this dude back on. I am probably gonna have to go lock that column though, or this thing's gonna start spinning, which it's already doing. Okay. Well, I got my new idler. I do know I'm gonna have to clean this shop. All right, sometimes it's nice just to take a second and refresh your area, get your stuff cleaned up, make new lists, love lists. So got new lists, got all of our stuff cleaned up. We're getting a huge pile of parts that are going in the dumpster. Just got a few things left. The suspension's basically wrapped up. I need to go ahead and grease all the front end stuff that we put on, which, who doesn't love a good excuse to buy a new tool when you have like 15 brand new grease zerks? So that was fun. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video off here. We've got a bunch of little stuff to do before we head to Southern Illinois Truck Showdown and drive this thing 5 hours down south. But it's all little stuff, all tedious, cleaning up. I'll take you and kind of show you quick. So on our list now, our new refresh list, rear shock relocators. Those are at Powder. Rear frame cross member at Powder. Shackles, I may just order another set of shackles. The ones that are on the truck are like 1.5 inches. That may be too much. I may just order some 1-inch shackles just in case. Bed bracing, the bed bracing was cut up for these drop shackles when I got the truck. So we're gonna plate those in, flip the bed over. I'm also gonna cut and plate around the frame notch. The other things I have, grease, which I'm just gonna do real quick. Inner fenders are at Powder. Fan shroud at Powder. Shocks, still need some brackets at Powder. Steering reservoir and hoses. Here we are, and this guy is most likely not staying in there. So I've got this reservoir for this power steering. It was screwed to the inner fender. Now that we have new ones, I don't wanna do that. So I'm gonna relocate that up here using some existing holes from the charcoal canister that was in here. We'll get our new fan shroud and electric fans in. I gotta check the reservoir for brake fluid, and then we've got some just wiring cleanup to do. Let's see if you can see this. This truck had 3 fans on it, 2 on the radiator and 1 in the front that I found taking the grill out. that I think was just for when the AC was on for the AC condenser. Now that we actually have a shroud, this truck had no shroud on it, they're just zip tied to the radiator. I don't think we need 3, and this fan that I have from Flexolite is massive. So we gotta get in here, clean up all these fan controls, pressure wash all this stuff out while the inner fenders are out, and get it back on its wheels. So just a bunch of little stuff to do that I think we'll probably cover in the next video. And you know what? Actually, I think we'll have our new wheels from 3030 Autosport by the next video, which that'll be sick. I'm really excited to show you guys this thing on the wheels we have picked out, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time.